All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. We're covering the SEC transfer portal right now. We got Arkansas coming up. If you are liking what you're hearing from us, please hit that like and subscribe button. Any support is greatly appreciated. But Arkansas only had a couple transfers. Let's start with Cody here. Just talk about each transfer a little bit, maybe what you like from them, what you don't like. But I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I mean, as Calipari does, he always goes the freshman route. He always brings in a couple 5-stars every year. I mean, he's got Darius Acuff, who looks like he's going to be the starting point guard for the Razorbacks, and then Malique Thomas, who's probably going to be a bench piece. Maybe he slides into the rotation early on, depending on how he develops. But 2 5-stars coming in that, he kind of likes to lean on at some point in the season. But yeah, the only 2 guys here, Malique Ewin and Nick Pringle. And I definitely think Malique Ewin is the top transfer that he brought in. I think he's really going to help them on the offensive side, especially. I mean, especially on the offensive glass. He had a 13.8% offensive rebound rate last season. And this is a massive quality for an Arkansas team that really struggled in this area a year ago. I mean, they were 230th nationally on the offensive glass. And for a team that may not shoot it at a high level, I think this is going to be really important for Arkansas next season. I mean, overall, I think Malique Ewin is he's a versatile role man as well. He's going to be a great transition threat, which is big for a John Calipari offense, or at least a modern John Calipari offense that really wants to get up and down. And especially like with the lack of shooting, like I mentioned, I think that's going to be huge. His functional athleticism and plus footwork will allow him to be effective either in short roll or as an over-the-top threat. He's not really an overwhelming vertical athlete or physical presence, but I think he has a pretty solid combination of both. It ranked in the 84th percentile as a roll man at Florida State. So I think you can really only go up from there when playing around better talents. Like I mentioned, the fit and transition is going to be great. And I actually think there's some on-ball creation upside. I mean, he's a real plus handler for a front court player. He can operate in the handoff game and a little bit as a driver as well. He had a 15.5% assist rate at FSU, and he showed some real passing instincts at Florida State, and only having a 15.9% turnover rate is really solid for a high usage big that played around really poor spacing at Florida State last season. I do like his post footwork as well. He may not be extremely efficient in this area just because he's not like a crazy physical presence, but I think there's some matchup versatility there. At least can back down a smaller defender or, kind of face up against those slower footed defenders and take them off the bounce a little bit. So yeah, overall, I think there's some upside here outside of like the perimeter game. He's not really going to shoot the ball at all. He's only attempted like 1 3 or 2 threes in his college career. So there's not much there, but I think he can also grab a rebound and go in transition, which is going to allow them to get into their transition offense even quicker. So I do expect this team to be a top 10 or 15 pace team, and I think he's going to be a big reason why.
Marcus, let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, Malique Ewin is certainly their top get in the portal. Just to speak to Nick Pringle for a second, like 4th school in 4 years, right? Wofford.
The guy loves the SEC.
Started at Wofford, though.
Yeah.
Wofford, Bama, South Carolina, now Arkansas, 4th time's the charm, maybe. It's a true, like, obviously Calipari was targeting, like, front court guys that can be impactful on the glass, because that is where Nick Pringle can be impactful. 10% offensive rebound rate, almost 22% on the defensive glass. Gets to the line quite often. Solid rim score, 60%, but he takes 94% of his shots at the rim. So similar to Ewin, like both guys are not shooting threats. But to touch a little bit more on Ewin, to your point about him, in his athleticism, Cody, he's a very good rim runner. He runs the floor very, very well. And so that's why, I do think that he's going to help them in that pace department. He can sprint the floor and keep up with the guards and then, catch a lob above everybody and throw it down. So he's going to be very good there. And like you said, on the glass, very, very effective. 14% on the offensive glass, 20% on the defensive glass. Good passer. Impacts some shots. Almost 4% block rate. So I do think I like what Calipari did to kind of complement and hopefully enhance what they've had or what he had last year in the front court. It wasn't like super daunting, like physically, but Malique Ewin's like a bigger body, like 6'11", like 230, 240 probably. He's got a solid frame. So, I do like what Calipari did with these two, even though, I do like Malique Ewin quite a bit more.
It sounds like you guys think they fit pretty well in the Arkansas system, but maybe talk a little bit more about that. And then we'll just go right into, not final thoughts, but kind of like what to expect from next season. Ceiling and a floor, maybe. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, on the defensive side, on the defensive side of the floor, I don't really think they're really going to provide like a major impact as opposed to like a guy like Jonas Adu brought to the table last season. Like these guys are probably going to split time at the 5 with the potential to play next to each other. Like I think Ewin can play the 4 a little bit. I don't really love either of their like rim protection skills. And I don't think they're great defensive anchors, but I think their athleticism is going to allow them to bring some value in that area. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think this team improved for sure. I think for the most part, it's because of the offensive rebounding improvements. Neither of these guys are going to space the floor, and shooting's still going to be somewhat of a weakness on this team, depending on what the freshmen are going to provide. But I think their ability to provide second chances in a half-court setting is going to be really big for a half-court offense that really struggled last season. It obviously it's still going to be more of a transition-based offense, but I do think those two guys on the offensive glass, and then a little bit of Ewin's ability to create some offense for this team, depending on what guys like, I mean, if DJ Wagner doesn't make any sort of a leap and Acuff isn't what they think they're getting, I think Ewin's going to be pretty big in the creation department. So for those reasons, I think the offense improved. Obviously, I think it kind of had to go up from last year. I think Arkansas fans weren't all that happy with how the offense performed for the course of the entire season. Obviously, it finished out pretty well. They made a Sweet 16. That wasn't really expected of them. But yeah, overall, I think the offense improved, and I think they have a higher floor this coming season.
Marcus, what do you expect from this roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think like what you really got last year at Arkansas was like you had a lot of guys, right? There's kind of a logjam of guys that were all like kind of similar, not great shooters, and a lot of mouths to feed. And then you had like bigs like Big Z that wanted, their piece of the pie as well. I think this year, like, roles are more defined. It's kind of clear, like, at least to start out with, what guys are kind of going to be leading the charge on the offense, which I think is going to be really good. You saw, Carter Knox kind of come on as the season went along, and now, he's going to be a sophomore here. DJ Wagner, another year older, if he can make a leap. And then like Billy Richmond, plus, Darius Acuff, and then these transfers. So I think I just like it because it's not as much of a logjam anymore. They have Ewin who can be impactful in the offensive end, and then these other guys that, have another year experience. So I think Arkansas certainly is a tournament team. I'd be pretty shocked if they weren't. I guess like their floor would be like bubble-ish, but I think they could get up to maybe, I don't know, like a 6 seed ish, 5, 6 maybe, depending on how like these younger guys come along, how their development has gone this offseason. So I definitely like Arkansas a bit more this year.
Any final thoughts for the Razorbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say this team really has championship upside by any means, just because a Calipari coached offense in modern day isn't I just don't think it's capable of winning a title anymore. But I do, like I said, I think the floor is much higher on the offensive end than it was last season just because of the rebounding. And I do think this is a top 15 defensive unit, across the roster. Although, like, I'm not like extremely high on Ewin and Pringle as defenders. Like, allowing Brazil to go back to his natural position at the 4 is going to be really big for having 2 rim protectors really at all times. And then you bring in guys off the bench like Billy Richmond, who was a really underrated defender last season. So yeah, I think this team has a higher floor on both sides of the ball. I just think the championship ceiling isn't quite there just because of the offense and just because mainly the half-court offense and the shooting.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here for the Razorbacks. But as always, thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.